Hey, it's Marilyn Devonish here from transformationstm.com, and something really exciting for you. Just want to announce the launch so you have a bit of a heads up. You can look out for it tomorrow. It's going to launch in my e-newsletter group, and there's a special price for the first 24 hours, and then I will change the prices, and then it will kind of go out on more general release. But what I did 2 years ago to celebrate my 50th birthday is I had the idea of doing 50 soul plans for £50. So what I did is put it out to my e-newsletter list. People could book, and rather than doing 50 individual sessions, which would just be crazy and unworkable even for someone like me, I decided what I would do is I would compile all of the soul plans, and then I would do a global reading. So I would go through all of the aspects of everyone's soul plan. There are 22 different combinations, and so let's just say I had 20 people with the 8-8 energy. I only have to say that once and they all get that information, another 20, 21-3. And so I kind of worked it like that and did a webinar version. And I was thinking that as we come out of lockdown, in terms of having a sense of clarity, having a sense of focus, even that thing about drive and motivation, re-establishing purpose, life purpose, I thought it might be a really great idea to do that again post COVID-19. So what I am going to do, I've just set the page up. So I know one or two of you who are on my e-newsletter list have asked me about it, so I've sent you the individual link, but this is going to be the page that you're looking out for. What I'll also do is I will add it to my website. I'll put a link to my website once it's launched after the e-newsletter piece. So if you go to my website, there's a red What's New button at the top. Click on that, a panel will slide out, and then I'll put a link where you can find out more and you can book your place. But that's what I'm going to do. It's going to be a group soul plan reading, just to give you a sense of what to expect. This is some of the feedback. This is someone who took part when I did it 2 years ago, and they said, thank you for an amazing call. It's unbelievable how accurate it is about me. So even though I'm doing it as a group this time, you still get that sense of deep insight, those aha moments, those wow moments, those light bulb moments. So this was somebody taking part in the 50 Soul Plans for £50 webinar a few years ago. That was their feedback. Probably got a few more here. Someone else said, so they were also on the teleseminar, and I did it as a teleseminar. This time I'll probably do it as a webinar, a video webinar. But someone else said, thank you so much, Marilyn. That was fantastic. It was really accurate and just what I needed. So people also found that it came at just the right time, and there was no pandemic. We were not in lockdown. There was nothing dramatic going on, but still it just landed and resonated with people really, really powerfully. So that's what I'm going to be doing. Someone else who did people are often lost for words, and any of you who know Sifu Boggy, for example, I'd said to him one day, why don't you just soul plan? I'm sure it will take your breath away. You'll be lost for words. And he's like, Marilyn, I am never lost for words. He was lost for words. And there's a video webinar where we do a reveal live. So it really does. People are like, whoa, wow. And so this was one of the feedback. Okay, so wow, that's often how it lands with people. And one of the things I'd say about the soul plan, it's a really good way of giving you a deeper insight. If any of you do, let's say, archetypal journey work, you will know about the shadow side. So oftentimes, because the soul plan is almost I call it like almost 3 parts. You've got the downward triangle. Actually, let me show you. When I say downward triangle, you can see what I mean. So you've got the downward triangle, which is the worldly. So you've got your worldly challenges, your worldly goals, your worldly talents. And that tends to be from age 0 to 30/35. You've got the upward triangle, which is the spiritual. And that doesn't mean you suddenly get more spiritual and sit on a mountain going om. It's just, I think of it like in terms of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where you have satisfied some of those more basic developmental needs, other things become important to you and become revealed to you. So the upward triangle is age 30 to 35 onwards approximately. And one of the things that I have found, I've been a soul plan instructor since November 2013. I have found that I've gone back to my soul plan years later, like I looked at it a year and a half ago, something that was mildly interesting and yeah, whatever, years ago, 13 years ago, although those years ago. Suddenly now in 2013 I did it, and then I went back and looked at it. It was probably a good 5 years afterwards. Something that was interesting in 2013, suddenly it's like, whoa, that's up. I was like, how can that? I was like, well, of course, the soul plan is like a living, breathing document. So I've had clients who go back and look at their soul plan a year later, 2 years later, 3 years later, and it still speaks to them. It still gives them insights, because it's kind of a growing, evolving document. So I always say this is one of the investments that just keeps on giving. So what you'll get, and the way we're going to structure this is, for those of you who have booked, you'll get a written copy of your soul plan reports. That's page 1, you can see on the screen. It runs to about 4 or 5 pages, maybe 6 depending. So you'll get that as a PDF document. Then what I'm going to be doing is do a spreadsheet. Last time I did a massive spreadsheet, so I then mapped out all of the facets that came up for people. So I made sure I included those in the webinar. We'll agree a date for the group webinar. I'll do the group reading. You can ask questions as well. We'll have a Q&A time. And then, of course, if you can't make it, you'll get the recording, so you can still have your soul plan reading. And it means you have it for prosperity as well, should you ever want to go back and look at it. So you'll get the PDF soul plan report via email, so you can go through that at your leisure. And then I'll explain the symbols and what it's all about, and what those numbers mean, and what it means when they sit in a particular position. What we'll probably also do, because I think that's going to be a major one in terms of the buttons that have been pressed during COVID-19, depending on where something sits in your soul plan, has a slightly different meaning than the general meaning on the report. And there's also, with each and every facet of the soul plan, it outlines suggested therapies, self-help methods, and really importantly, limiting beliefs. So I've just got an extract of one on the screen. So limiting beliefs, what can we see here? I need to fit in. I don't deserve love. I must hide my true self. I might be persecuted for my spirituality, beliefs, etc. So there are 7 or 8 limiting beliefs that sit within each of the facets of the soul plan. So we'll talk about some of those on the webinar as well, to give you a sense of what they are. And of course, if I'm doing a one-to-one reading with people, we go through all of the facets of the soul plan, including looking at your soul destiny. We're looking at the key limiting beliefs, and then talking about the things you can do in terms of self-help, which don't cost anything at all, and then some of the things that people can do if they wanted to move forward and look at it more therapeutically. So we'll talk about some of that on the webinar as well. And one of the things that my clients always say to me is, when they read their soul plan report, oftentimes it's like looking at a blueprint of their entire life mapped out on 4 or 5 sheets of paper. And there are other times where people don't really understand what a particular facet means. They're like, oh, okay, that's interesting, but I don't really know what that is. And then when we go through and do the soul plan reading, which when I'm doing a one-to-one reading, I either do it by telephone, by Skype, or I've got my online meeting room. When I actually take them through what it means, people are like, whoa. And that's where they're lost for words, because it is like seeing your life mapped out on 5 sheets of paper. And I remember the very first time I saw my soul plan, I was a bit like, oh, it's a bit like a horoscope, because I'd said, my name is Marilyn Devonish, which it is, of course. And I'm on the training, and Blue Marsden, the person I trained with, he kept going on about your birth name, your birth name, your birth name. And it was kind of coming up to lunchtime on the first day of the practitioner training. And I says, Blue, you keep talking about birth name. What do you actually mean when you say that? And he said, oh, the name on your birth certificate. I was like, oops. And I said, is that the name that should have been on my soul plan? And he's like, yeah, what did you? I said, I don't use my middle name ever. It's not on my passport or anything like that. And he said, oh no, we need your birth name. And so during lunch, they managed somehow to get me a report, get it printed, and get it back to the training venue. And when I read it, I was like, oh, now you're talking. It talked to, actually, let me just, if I've got it handy, I'll give you, let me just see if I have it handy, actually. This is the folder. Ah, here we go. So for example, worldly challenges for me. Hang on, a bit of fluff. Worldly challenges, possible challenges for me. This sits in my worldly challenge area. So your report will look a bit like this. You'll get a write-up of what the pieces mean. So worldly challenges, and these are the challenges that I would have come into the world that it will be useful for me to overcome and work on and resolve in order to flourish and grow and evolve. So coming into the world, 0 to 30/35, keep that in mind. Possible challenges in my worldly challenged area: denial of spirituality, severely critical, self-loathing, perfectionist, feel alienated, insecure, must work to establish self in the spiritual. Now, you might go, given what I do, NLP, hypnosis, timeline therapy, EFT, DNA theta healing, Huna, Reiki, you name it, it's in there. You couldn't have anyone who's more into spirituality almost. So when people hear that, they go, but that's not you. I go, oh, but what you're missing is that was me right up until the age of 32. Denial of spirituality. I was studying to be a chartered accountant. I'd done a business studies degree. I'd done a postgraduate marketing diploma with the Chartered Institute of Marketing. I'd done a teaching certificate, and I was studying to be a chartered accountant. You couldn't get any further away from all the spirituality stuff. Severely critical self-loathing. In September 2000, I contemplated committing suicide. You do not necessarily contemplate suicide when you love yourself. Feeling alienated, insecure, must work to establish self in the spiritual. My goodness, did I go through the ringer or what in order to get where I am today? All of the childhood abuse, the, early onset Alzheimer's in my 20s, what was thought to be diagnosed as. Seriously, I've been through the ringer. It really took work to get here. Now, the flip side, because you've got it talks about the possible challenges, and it also talks about the potential attributes. And really, when you've then worked on those challenges, my potential attributes in that 10-1 area, yin yang balance of the male and female balance. And it wasn't until last year I was doing a webinar talking about the soul plan. I read that, and that's one of the things when I say to you, sometimes the penny drops in a different way. And I was like, oh my goodness, for the first 9 years I was in practice, I was a relationship coach. 80% of my clients were men. And they came from an article in the Metro newspaper called Breaking Up the Easy Way, where one of the journalists who was very skeptical about NLP, hypnosis, and timeline therapy came to me to do an interview, wasn't really that interested. So I said, look, stop the recording. Why don't you do a breakthrough session? Then you can write about it. If you like it, you can write about that. If you don't like it, you can write about it too. I was like, really, Marilyn? And apparently her editor had sort of thought it'd be like a chick piece. And it came out on something like the 3rd or 4th of January. So no one was even at work. So the Metro's probably not. That article had clients coming in for 7 years because she started off saying what I did sounded like New Age hocus pocus. And the article finishes with saying, I don't know what Devonish did, but it was seamless and easy. And best of all, no effort on my part. No longer am I stressing over Mark and I'm ticking things off my to-do list, etc., etc. People were blown away, and the majority of people that came from that article were men. So when I looked at this now with the male female balance, I'm like, that makes perfect sense. So anyway, yin yang, male female balance, excellent healers, inventive, power, many spiritual abilities, vocal expression, a channel, and possible service incarnation. Now, when I read that bit, people go, oh, that's totally you. I'm like, and it wasn't until the age of 32. And all of them, I could go through all of the 7 facets of this difficult. So my worldly talents, for example, I'm a 5'5", just a couple of them. Difficulty fitting in, victim of abuse, right foot issues, bracket stepping forward. As a child, my right ankle used to swell up for no reason. In 20s, I ripped the tendons to shreds, could barely walk on my right ankle for about 1.5 years. I've still got the wobble board in that corner over there because I had to do the wobble board for 2 years. And even now, I do the ballet stretch class on a Sunday. I'm aware I can't really cross my legs because there's no lateral flexibility in the ankle. So when I saw that on my soul plan, that was one of the things that made my jaw drop. And of course, well, not of course, it depends how well you know me. But when I saw the victim of abuse, I was sexually abused from the age of 7 to 17. So when I saw these things on my soul plan, I'm like, oh my word. Now, when you get over over those things, the potential attributes and your talents include pioneering, intuitive, spiritually open, adventurous, assertive, articulate, visionary, and creative. Years ago, I was tidying up. I paid hundreds of pounds in my very early 20s, and I went to a career analysis company where they put you through a load of psychometric tests and profiles. And basically my one, said, I'm better as a backroom person taking orders. I will never be able to be a leader or lead. So, and it's correct. At the time when I was in all of the challenge stuff, that was totally my personality. Now, and also with pioneering intuitive, I'm sure if I asked Blue Mars, and I would have been the first person to do 50 soul plans and do it as a webinar. And for those of you who know me, you will know I've been a photo reading instructor for many years. I did my instructor training in March 2002. And photo reading was launched in 1985. About 3-4 years ago, I was the first person in the world, including Dr. Paul Sheely and Learning Strategies Corporation, who created it, to actually teach the whole certification class online as a live video webinar. So when it talks now about pioneering and all the rest of it and adventurous, it's me to a T, but it wasn't. So that just gives you a little flavor of kind of the soul plan report. So you'll receive a copy of the soul plan report as a PDF, and then I'll explain to you, what all the little squiggles and numbers and mean during the webinar. So, that's what you'll get. If you've got any questions, if you've got any queries, drop them into the thread, the chat thread, and if you're watching this as a replay, of course you can put them in, and I will cycle back and answer them. So for those of you who are on my e-newsletter list, it will launch tomorrow. You'll have 24 hours. The £60 price will be available until Thursday. And then once I've done that, I'll just use the same page. I'll just take those numbers out and put the higher price in for people who are not on the e-newsletter list. The launch price for those of you who are not on my list will be £75. And then once I've given it a week or so to run, maybe towards the end, middle to the end of this month, what I'll then do is email everyone with some potential times and dates in terms of when I will run the live webinar. And for those of you who want to attend live, I'll put a calendar thing together, so you can just click the dates that you're free, and I will endeavor to choose a date that everyone who wants to attend live can do. And as I said, if you can't make it live, you will get a copy of the recording. And what I would suggest, if you can't make it live, is email me your questions having gone through your soul plan report, and I won't say so and so from London said. I'll just say question 1, question 2, question 3, question 4. If you're happy to use your name, say so, because sometimes people go, what was my question again? But I will answer your questions on the webinar as well. So if you've got any questions, if you've got any queries about how to sign up or how this works, what's included, drop me an email, marilyn@transformationstm.com. Marilyn is MARILYN at trance, TRANCE. Formation starts F for Freddy, so FORMATIONS. TM is in trademark.com. So marilyn@transformationstm.com. My main website is www.transformationstm.com. If you do /soul plan, which will also be going across the bottom of the screen as ticker tape, /soul plan, that will take you straight to the soul plan page, and then you can read more about the soul plan, etc., etc. What I'll probably do with this video is I will add a link to the soul plan that I did posthumously for Whitney Houston a couple of years after she died, because that really gives you a good insight into how those numbers and those words in the paragraph translate in real life. And again, when I was doing Whitney's soul plan, I was like, whoa, because it talked about things that actually, in terms of doing the wider interpretation. I remember I was watching an autopsy show last year, and he said something, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure I wrote those words in the blog years before. So I went back and had a look, and sure enough, the way he described something in her autopsy report is exactly how I'd written it when I was doing the interpretation of her soul plan. So what I'll do is I'll add a link to that in the comments if you're watching this on Facebook, and I'll add a link to that in the description if you're watching this on YouTube. So yeah, it'd be wonderful if you want to come join us. This isn't a regular thing. I did 50 soul plans for £50 because I just wanted to do something to mark my my 50th birthday. If I'm still around when I'm 100, I might do something else again. But yeah, it's not a regular thing, because trust me when I tell you, to compile all of those soul plans, even just to put everything into the spreadsheet, it takes a lot of work. So it's not something I'm going to be doing on a regular basis. So it may be several years or another 48 years before I do this again. So if you would like to join us, keep a lookout for the e-newsletter list. If you're on my e-newsletter list, that will land tomorrow. And then if you're not on the list, then keep an eye on my social media pages. I'll post the link on Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter. And if you can't find it, then of course ask me, and I'll put the link, of course, in the description of the video as well, in the comments. Cool, fabulous. Well, I really look forward to those of you who are going to take the plunge and join us. And so yeah, if you want something that is kind of laser sharp accurate about you and, you know, the future and the limiting beliefs and the challenges, and actually what I think is really exciting is oftentimes it's confirming your skills and abilities and your attributes, and it's highlighting things that you like, wow, either I'd never thought of that, or I had thought of that and wasn't even sure if I had the capability or the skill. And there is something about seeing it in your soul plan that almost affirms, you know, sometimes you feel like you need permission. But, you know, if I had read this years ago about being articulate and having vocal expression and spiritual abilities, I might have gone, oh, that would be nice, but had no way of getting there. I did jokingly say when I read my soul plan in 2013, I was like, hot damn, could I not have seen this 20 or 30 years ago? It would have saved me a lot of work. Now I know in terms of the process of growth and evolution, but it really is a wonderful blueprint. I did one for a client last year, and she said, Marilyn, thank you for helping me to understand my life. She was in her 50s. Do you know what I mean? That's how profound and how deep it can be for people. So I really look forward to working with you. If you want to join me for this one, it's going to be amazing. I already know from the first one, you know, and with that one, it was an experiment, you know, coming back to being adventurous and pioneering and inventive. I'm like, fingers crossed, I hope it's as good as I think it's going to be. And it just was amazing. And so having tried and tested the idea, now I know it's going to be fabulous. It's just a case of sorting out a date. So yeah, I look forward to working with you. Look out for the e-newsletter list. So if you're booking from the e-newsletter list, the launch price is £60. If you're not on the list, the launch price is £75. And if you just want to book a private one-to-one soul plan reading session, it's the word reading. Whenever I think of reading, I think of photo reading. So the soul plan reading session, it's currently £130. If you're watching this a couple of years from now, it's probably not going to be. So at the current time, it's £130 to book a private reading, which we'll do by telephone, Skype, or my online meeting room. So yeah, look forward to working with you, and let's see what your soul plan reveals about you. Can't wait. Bye-bye.